I'm honored to join my colleagues on the floor today, and I want to thank our great and distinguished leader on this issue, Senator Durbin, who has devoted so many years and so much energy and really been a model for me personally of what an advocate should be in the United States Senate, and most especially on this issue, which has been preeminently important to me since my arrival here almost 7 years ago. And for a time, I was on the floor almost every week, periodically, with a photo of another dreamer. And the reason was to make this issue real in the hearts of the American people, to bring their voices and faces to this body. Today, I'm joined in spirit by Alejandra Liamares. And she is one of 8,000 dreamers in Connecticut. I am proud of each and every one of them. She's one of 700,000 dreamers in the United States of America. And I hope that my colleagues are proud of them in their states as well, because they are absolutely incredible people. Nobody's perfect, but in many ways they embody the spirit and values of America. They work hard, they go to school, they are our future engineers and scientists, nurses, doctors. They are of immense value to our economy because they work and contribute, and they will better themselves through education, through their values, and they know what it means to be an American citizen, even though they are not. They know the value of citizenship. Alejandra came to this country when she was 1 year old. She was brought here by her parents across the border from Mexico. Her family lived in a cramped, small house with her two uncles. They had very little money. She and her sister were bullied by students in elementary school because, of course, they had to learn English. They spoke with an accent, but as she told me, my mother told me not to give up. That's what she wrote me a couple of days after the President of the United States announced that he would end the DACA program. She wrote me 5 days after the Trump administration rescinded DACA, and her story has stuck with me, haunted me over these months, just as when I meet with dreamers, as I did just this last Monday in Hartford, Connecticut, to reassure them that I was going to fight every day remaining in this session. Their stories have haunted and moved and inspired me. Alejandra was bullied, but even as she was bullied for speaking a different language, her native language, and learning English, even as her father was deported, even as her family was left without him and with even less support, they persevered. She wrote to me, quote, "I made it my mission to prove that I was worthy of being considered an American." How many of us, growing up, made it our mission to prove ourselves worthy of being an American? I dare say few of us considered that a mission. Most of us take for granted that we are Americans. We are the citizens of the greatest country in the history of the world. Slowly but surely, she learned English, and it became her primary language. And in 2012, she got a break. The Obama administration enacted DACA. She could come out of the shadows she could have a place, some security. And that step unlocked for her, literally, unlocked for her the American dream. For all of us who take for granted what it means to be an American, who have never made it a mission to become an American, we often take for granted the American dream as well. We belong here. No one is going to send us away. No one is going to deport us to a land we have no knowledge of, to a place away from our friends, our family. But DACA meant something else as well, more than just emotional. It meant she could go to college, and she did. She went to Wesleyan, where she is now a student. And for once, she had the immense luxury of not being afraid. Not being afraid, because she could go to college and study, as she is now studying, film and international relations. She felt empowered to speak up and participate in her community. She worked at Delaware Goes to College Academy and the Summer Learning Collaborative. They both promote education for disadvantaged youth. And she was now not only learning and studying at one of the great universities in our country, but giving back to others, enabling others to climb that same ladder. Young people with disadvantages like hers, to make the most of themselves and to achieve that American dream. When Attorney General Sessions rescinded DACA in September with the president's approval, Alejandra wrote to me, quote, "I wanted this to be my country so badly. One thing that I knew from the bottom of my heart was that I wanted to stay here and that I was an American." Anyone who looks at Alejandra and knows her story and hears her words has to be heartbroken. That a young woman seeking so deeply to be an American, to live the American dream and American values and give back to this country that she loves and who never takes for granted what so many of us do. We have to be heartbroken to hear those words and her story. And I've heard my colleagues say, well, why now? Why not wait until after the new year? Why not wait until March? Why not wait? Well, waiting until March would mean an extension of her anxiety and apprehension, her fear, and it would also mean the extension of a humanitarian crisis, because make no mistake, 8,000 young people in Connecticut, 700,000 in the United States of America, threatening deportation to them is an unprecedented message to the world and to ourselves. It says something about who we are. To leave them hanging is not only unfair, it's unworthy of us as Americans. But more practically speaking, tens of thousands of those DACA recipients are estimated to have already lost their protection from removal. Kicking the can down the road would mean continued anguish for those 700,000 young people, and it would mean breaking a promise. They came forward. They provided their addresses, their cell phone numbers, their tax information on the promise that it would not be used against them. And it would mean instability in the job market. It would hurt our economy. That's why employers are coming forward and urging us to act now. Companies have been forced to consider whether they should fire these DACA recipients and train new ones, new employees in anticipation of the March deadline. It would churn and create turmoil if we fail to act. In fact, it already is creating that chaos and confusion, because looming on the horizon, ominously, inexorably, is the threat of mass deportation. It would be a humanitarian nightmare. And it's a bureaucratic nightmare as well to wait. If the DREAM Act is passed, the United States Customs and Immigration Service has work to do. It needs to develop new regulation, process application. That involves conducting security checks, biometric screening, notifying the applicants, doing the paperwork. Experts say this process could take up to 7 months in total. So we're already late. We're already late in beginning and accomplishing this task. If we delay our action, thousands of dreamers will lose their protections before the law is fully implemented. Young contributing members of our society, like Alejandra, who have done nothing wrong, will be dragged back into the shadows, to lose their driver's licenses, to lose their jobs, to lose a sense of security, to fear every day the sound of police sirens, as so many do right now. Mr. President, the administration has literally thrown a time bomb to this body, and it's ticking. We have the power to defuse it. We have the power to do the right thing. And we have the power and we have the obligation to give those 700,000 dreamers truly the ability to make the most of themselves and make the most of this country. Often when I think of the dreamers, I think of my father, who came to this country in 1935. He was 17 years old. He knew virtually no one. He spoke almost no English. He had not much more than the shirt on his back. And he was a dreamer. Although he came here legally, he became a United States citizen. Nobody loved this country more than my dad. And I sometimes think how sad and ashamed he would be in the way we have denied the dreamers the opportunity and security that he felt coming here, escaping persecution in Germany. This country has never been perfect, but we are the greatest country in the history of the world because we are a nation of immigrants. And if you are ever discouraged or down about your lives or about the country, you may want to try going to the immigration naturalization ceremonies in your state. They happen in Connecticut every week in the courthouses. I go as often as I can on Fridays, when they usually occur in Hartford or New Haven or Bridgeport, because it is so uplifting, so very inspiring to see people who are moved and grateful beyond words, moved to tears in becoming citizens of the United States. And the judges usually give me an opportunity to say a few words, and I thank them for wanting to become citizens, and I tell them, you've passed a test that most Americans couldn't pass. And they laugh, as perhaps some of you who are listening now would laugh, because they know it's true. They know they wanted it. They wanted to become American citizens. And so they studied for it, and they prepared, and many of them came long distances in escaping persecution, just as my dad did, and left behind families and loved ones and jobs and careers because they wanted to be citizens. They will never take it for granted, nor will Alejandra if she is given that opportunity. She wants it too. She is a dreamer, not only in name, but in spirit. And I hope that all of us keep her in mind and in heart when we think about what we're going to do in the next couple of weeks. For me, I am determined that we should not leave here for our holiday without acting on this measure. I know we can do it if both sides of the aisle are reasonable and responsible and responsive, because the vast majority of the American people are with Alejandra. They know her as a neighbor. They know her as a friend, even though they may never have met her. They know people like her who are in their communities, and they know the immense contribution that she and others like her can make. And I know so many of them who share that simple goal to become a United States citizen. And it begins with a permanent status, a path to earn citizenship, whatever it may be called. It begins with a sense of security and belonging. And I hope this body will pass a DREAM Act and give Alejandra and so many like her that opportunity to accomplish the American dream. Thank you, Mr. President, and I yield the floor.